space as Discovery clears the tower.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
Discovery, roger, go for deploy.
Thanks, June, and to everybody in the shuttle program. The crew is go for launch.
Roger, nice to be in orbit.
We have followed in their footsteps to get us where we are today.
And you're looking live at the Crew Dragon spacecraft on top of a Falcon 9 rocket set to launch 4 astronauts to the International Space Station in a little less than 4 hours. But right now, they're live inside the room right here. Crew 4 astronauts getting their spacesuits on. And this is a live look inside that suit-up room where the crew of 3 Americans and 1 European astronaut are completing their checkouts of their spacesuits. Welcome everybody to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida for live coverage of NASA and SpaceX's launch of Crew 4. I'm Daryl Nail and I'm with Megan MacArthur, astronaut from Crew 2. You were the pilot in that mission, so it's great that you have that experience and that you're here to share it with us because you know this mission well, but you also flew the space shuttle.
Absolutely. It's always exciting to be at Kennedy Space Center on a launch day. I'm super excited to see my friends getting ready to fly. They all have big smiles on their faces, and it's going to be a great time watching them get ready tonight.
Absolutely, and it all started when they woke up today at 8:37 p.m. yesterday, because we just rolled over midnight into Wednesday, but it was Tuesday just a few hours ago, and that gets everything rolling.
That's right. It's we think of the day as starting sort of at launch time, but in fact they've been up for many hours going through some weather briefings, some last minute checks, and as we see them right now going through the suit checkout before they take the next steps to head out toward the rocket.
And we'll jump back into the room here in just a second to get more of your insight on that. We want to invite you at home who are participating. You can participate really by using the hashtag AskNASA.
Team is in the White Room, and we are on schedule.
There you'll hear the operational audio. We'll have that playing in the background from time to time. We'll try to make sure our comments are down and low when they talk so you can hear that. But in addition to Megan's analysis, we also have teams around the country covering all the action, and there you see them now. We'll get updates from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, as well as NASA's Mission Control Center in Houston, and of course, right here in Florida. And there's Dan and Jesse mugging for the camera. I appreciate that. And of course, the rocket is on the pad. We'll talk with Crew 3 astronaut Raja Chari, who is in space right now, making preparations for Crew 4. Now let's go back out live. There is the rocket and the spacecraft, and this is the suit-up room. A historic room inside the Operations and Checkout Building, the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building at the Kennedy Space Center, where astronauts have been getting ready for launch, going all the way back to Apollo 7, and then in this building, back to Gemini 3.
It's a great feeling when you walk into the room and you recognize the history that's taken place in that room. Visually, it does look different than when we use the room for shuttle. Not tremendously different because the purpose is still the same. You're still getting into your spacesuit, making sure everything fits where it's supposed to, making sure the suit has its pressure integrity checked, and that's what they're going through right now. So this is really kind of the beginning of that buildup of excitement that's going to continue for them throughout the night.
Absolutely, and each one of the Crew 4 astronauts is in a seat that is molded exactly as it is in the spacecraft, right?
That's right. So the cushioning that you see can be changed out based on the size of each individual astronaut, and the idea is that that seat is going to cradle you through the various dynamic phases of flight. So you want it to fit you pretty well.
And you can see the SpaceX suit techs there with them, monitoring both on laptops, but then also interacting with the astronauts. Can you believe it, Megan, that you were in that room just about 1 year ago?
It's hard to believe. In some sense, it feels like it was yesterday, but in other ways, it feels like it was a lifetime ago. Yeah. But watching them go through this now definitely brings back all of those memories and those feelings from being in that room and having that excitement build.
You can see the equipment against the wall, the gray colored equipment with the dials and the switches and knobs. That's original from the shuttle and Apollo era. They left it there as kind of an homage to the era of past spaceflight.
I think that's right, and it really does, having been in there before, I'm definitely a person who appreciates history, and I think it's a nice, like you said, homage to the history of that room and the achievements that started, the day started in that room. So it's neat to still see that there. The SpaceX team, of course, runs a very efficient process. They've done this now several times, and they'll continue to improve their process and get better as they learn things from every mission. I was thinking this will be the 7th time that they've launched people on a Crew Dragon. And that may seem like a big number, but in a way, it's actually still quite a small number. So we do expect to continue to learn things every single time we do it.
And we are on an increase of that pace, right?
Absolutely.
As it's really starting to pick up. Just got that commercial crew back, and the private crew that Axiom 1 just came down.
Yep.
So let's get to know Crew 4 just a little bit more. This is the 4th rotational crew to fly on a commercial spacecraft, and each astronaut brings a diverse set of experiences to today's flight. And that astronaut that you see right there sitting in the chair, let's start with him. That is Dr. Kjell Lindgren. He was born in Taipei, Taiwan, but spent most of his childhood overseas in England, which he very much appreciated. You'll hear more from him about that. He was an instructor and jump master with the U.S. Air Force Academy and also has a doctorate in medicine, and he served as a flight surgeon for NASA. After he was chosen as an astronaut, Lindgren flew on Soyuz and spent 141 days in space during Expedition 44 and 45. He has a wife and 3 children, and today, Megan, he is the commander of Crew Dragon.
That's right. He is going to make an outstanding commander. He's a wonderful, talented person, obviously experienced at living and working in space, but also just a really good human. He's going to be looking out for his
We're at
crewmates.
T-minus 3 hours, 45 minutes. The side hatch is now open, and we are on schedule.
And they're very lucky to have him as their leader.
Up next is fellow airman Bob Hines. There he is with his visor open, communicating with his suit tech. He was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina. He has a wife and 3 daughters. He has a Master of Science in Aerospace Engineering and served 21 years in the U.S. Air Force as a test pilot. He was also a fighter pilot. He flew the F-15E. He came to NASA as a research pilot, where he flew science missions in our WB-57. Today, he's going into space for the very first time as the pilot for NASA SpaceX's Crew 4. Megan, you were the pilot for Crew 2. It's a position you know well.
That's right. It's an extremely important role, Daryl, as I'm sure you know.
Of course, because you did it.
I first got to interact actually with Bob when he was an instructor pilot for T-38 for the astronaut corps. And so flying with him was always a pleasure. He's always calm and collected no matter what the circumstances, which is exactly the person that you want piloting any vehicle that you're in. And they're going to make a great team today.
He did look quite calm in that shot, quite steady. This guy has flown so many aircraft, and we'll hear more about that in his bio a little bit later on. Now let's introduce you to the 2 mission specialists, Jessica Watkins, and there she is, looking calm and collected and not moving very much, but very focused, I imagine. She considers Lafayette, Colorado her hometown, a talented rugby player in college. Her team won the national championship in 2008 when she was with her university. I believe it was Sanford. Watkins was a postdoctoral fellow in the Division of Geological and Planetary Sciences at the California Institute of Technology. She completed several internships with NASA, including one testing system designs for the Mars Perseverance mission at JPL. She became an astronaut in 2017, a turtle. We'll talk more about that. And now, just like Bob, she's going into space for the very first time. This is a brand new experience for her.
Yep, it's a bit of a turtle takeover, I think, is what we're experiencing on Space Station right now. But Jessica is an outstanding crew member. It's been fun to get to know her since she arrived with her classmates. Just tremendous amount of knowledge that she brings. Can be very focused and serious on the task at hand, but boy, when she smiles, it really lights up the room. I think this crew is going to have a lot of fun together.
It sure does. And as she motions towards her suit, calling over the suit tech, what are you communicating with them about?
So it depends a little bit. They're going to be asking you how things fit, how they feel, how you can hear, if you're having any problems with the communications system, as well as with the cooling system. So there's a variety of things that they could be checking at this point.
The second mission specialist is Samantha Cristoforetti. She was born in Milan, Italy, but now lives in Cologne, Germany with her partner and 2 children. In 2006, she earned her fighter pilot wings and flew the AMX attack fighter at a base in Italy. In 2013, Cristoforetti launched into space aboard a Soyuz for a long-duration space flight to the International Space Station, so she has quite a bit of experience aboard station. Several years later, she was awarded the Knight Grand Cross of the Order of Merit from the President of Italy, and today she returns to space and the space station with Crew 4.
Another very impressive resume, but also just a great person to be around. So they're going to really work well together. They've gotten to spend several months together training and getting to know one another. And I think this mix of experience and skills is going to blend really well and make for a successful crew.
We've got a couple astronauts standing up, and you can see they're still attached to a blue box that's sitting there right next to their seat. What is that, Megan, and what purpose does it serve?
That blue box is providing cooling air for them as they're moving around. You can get quite warm in that suit, and so they're sort of preemptively making sure that the crew members are not going to get overheated during this wait time.
And each of these 4 crew members will be part of Expedition 67 once they arrive at the International Space Station, getting some final fit checks there for Chell, as his suit tech is taking care of it, making sure there's, as you said, Megan, no hot spots. Want to be comfortable when you're getting ready to launch. So now let's check in with our team monitoring preparations for launch at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. We're going to NASA's Dan Hewitt and SpaceX's Jesse Anderson. Take it away.
Hey, thanks, Daryl, and hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm Dan Hewitt. Thrilled to be back here at Hawthorne for another crew launch.
Yeah, and I'm Jesse Anderson, a production and engineering manager here at SpaceX, and per usual, super excited about Crew 4 today. Welcome to Mission Control in Hawthorne. This is where the teams are staffed around the clock as we count down to liftoff. Now, on console or headset in Mission Control are 6 key positions. The mission director is in charge of the room and tasked with making real-time decisions to ensure mission success. The person that you'll hear talking to the astronauts is the crew operations and resources engineer, which you'll hear us refer to as the core throughout the broadcast. The additional positions are focused on vehicle systems, including avionics, navigation and control, software, propulsion, life support, and communication with ground support teams.
And NASA has its own team members back in Mission Control Houston. We're going to check in there a little bit later, where they're preparing the space station for Crew Dragon's arrival. And we're going to meet several of those key players when we do check in.
Now, today's ride to the space station will take about 22 hours with Dragon flying autonomously the entire way. And just like autopilot on a commercial aircraft, the crew always has the ability to take manual control of the spacecraft if needed. Now, at T-minus 3 hours and 39 minutes until liftoff, let's go to Andy Tran for an update on the launch countdown. How's it going so far, Andy?
Things are going good, Jesse. We are coming up on T-minus 3 hours and 30 minutes, and things are going well for launch. At T-minus 4 hours, there was a briefing by the SpaceX launch director, and good news, there's really nothing significant to report on the rocket. Everything is looking really good for tonight. Earlier in the night, the team began clearing the hazard area and buildings around Pad 39A, known as the Blast Danger Area, or BDA. The only people remaining on the pad are the ones needed for ingress of the astronauts, and crew arrival is expected to happen in about an hour. At the launch pad, Falcon 9 is powered on, and we're currently monitoring telemetry and pressurizing gas storage vessels. Engine and stage checkouts were also performed several hours ago. On top of Falcon 9, the Dragon spacecraft is ready for the crew. Functional checkouts were performed, and most recently, the Dragon propellant system was pressurized to final flight pressure about an hour ago. Currently, all spacecraft systems are a go. Launch range is also ready to support and working no issues at the time. The weather is cooperating as we continue to count down to liftoff. So again, everything is looking great for tonight's liftoff. With that, I'm going to send it back over to Daryl and Megan.
All right, thank you very much, Andy. It's now T-minus 3 hours and 37 minutes and counting here at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida as we cruise around the desk here. The crew ate breakfast a little after 9 p.m. last night. Medical checks then followed, and then less than an hour ago, they got a weather briefing to make sure they were all good for launch. I heard from Rob Navius, PAO over at Johnson, that the launch corridor, the abort corridor, I should say, the weather is good there, and that's a tough one to get because that's a large swath of area.
Yes.
Now, we're looking inside the room now at suit-up room at astronaut crew quarters, and you can see we're getting ready for a crew walkout. The techs are now finishing up each crew member. They're in their own custom spacesuit inside the historic astronaut crew quarters suit-up room. And in a few minutes, at T-minus 3 hours and 25 minutes, the crew will be making their way out of the famed suit-up room that we see here. They'll go down a hallway and into an elevator down to the first floor, and then outside to the families where they will be greeted by them and their loved ones and a small group of well-wishers. There'll be some media on hand as well before they head out to the pad. You see there in the upper left part of your camera there, a blue flight suit. That's Joe Acaba. He's the chief of the Vehicle Integration Test Office, and he's managing the crew schedules and all the crew quarter operations. He's the one keeping them on time in the room, right, Megan?
That's right. There's a team of folks that are managing that schedule. He makes sure that the operations for the astronaut quarantine facility run smoothly, that everybody has everything they need, everything from the air conditioning to the food to, everything in between. He's making sure that runs smoothly for everybody there, which is an important job. And boy, they sure do feed us really well in that time frame.
And right there is Zena Cardman.
That's right.
Fellow astronaut.
Fellow
with NASA.
turtle.
And a turtle as well.
There's another turtle in there.
Yeah. She is supporting the astronauts, right?
That's
She's
right.
in the support role, wearing, as you notice, the black SpaceX ninja suit, as they call it.
Yes.
And there's a reason for that.
Well, yeah, that's, I think, because the team is kind of one team is the idea, and she blends in with the rest of the team, but it is nice for us to have that one NASA representative knowing that, they're holding on to any messages or any information that we need to pass back and forth.
So Megan, you were on both sides of the stanchions when this walkout.
Countdown 1, we're T-minus 3 hours, 35 minutes. Crew suit donning and checkouts are complete. We're on schedule.
Okay, and they look finished and they're all ready to go. And as I was mentioning, you were on both sides, so both on the inside as an astronaut for Crew 2, but then also on the outside for your husband, Bob Behnken, who, along with Doug Hurley, flew that historic mission, the first Crew Dragon to go to the International Space Station. That's right, and it's a different experience with some similarities. As the family member, as the loved ones, you're outside, you're very excited for them to come out, you're thinking about how they're feeling and wanting to give them, a good, bright, joyful send-off. But of course, as the family member with no active role in the process, it's a little nerve-wracking, right, to realize that this major thing is about to happen that you're not participating in. My focus then was just to make sure that my son was enjoying it, that he was going to get to enjoy seeing his father in this moment and celebrate with him, and not try to climb into the Tesla on the way to the launch pad. That was my primary goal as in my mom role, right? And then on the flip side, when you're the crew member, you know you're going to get to see your family really soon. You're hoping that this is a joyful experience for them, that they're enjoying it, that they're excited for you, and so you do share those kinds of emotions. But I will say it's a much harder job as the loved ones that are there kind of being left behind, because you don't have that active role in the day's activities. You're just kind of a passive bystander. So for somebody like myself that's used to being very active, that was a challenge to realize he's doing this all on his own and I can't help no matter what. So that was my challenge. There are 3 Teslas, as you can see there. We've been showing you some views right outside the operations and checkout building there, and those are the vehicles that will take the astronauts to the pad, the second 2 Teslas. They will drive the crew out to Launch Complex 39A. Riding in the first car will be the suit techs and the spacecraft closeout lead. In the second Tesla, Commander Kjell Lindgren and pilot Bob Hines will be sharing a ride with a NASA flight surgeon. And in the third vehicle will be Jessica Watkins and Samantha Cristoforetti. They'll also have another closeout lead with them in that vehicle. And of course, we will follow the convoy live every step of the way, getting you as close as we can possibly get you without actually being inside the car. Now let's take a look at the crew's experiences bonding together.
I think one of the most special things about this particular space flight are the people that I get to fly with. Bob Hines, or Farmer, is a test pilot. He is the pilot for our spacecraft. Samantha Cristoforetti is an Italian fighter pilot who flew in 2014, and Jessica Watkins is one of our newer astronauts. She is somebody that absolutely is foundational to our crew and somebody that can be counted on.
Chell is our fearless leader, always in command, ready for the next move, and just somebody that I deeply respect.
I knew Chell Lindgren, our commander, very well. He was on the backup crew of my first flight, so we spent quite some time together. So I felt very grateful because Chell is just a great guy.
A little known fact about Jessica Watkins is that she has the sixth sense to know whenever something is in free flight around her and catch it. So I am really interested to see how in zero gravity, where everything's in free flight, I really want to see how she manages that.
She is phenomenal. You know, she joined our crew a little bit late, and for our very first SpaceX sim, she jumped right in there as if she had been training with us for months.
Samantha Cristoforetti is an Italian ESA astronaut. She always brings the Italian culture and energy to the table, always super inquisitive, and just makes us all feel like family.
To see her experience and the expertise that she brings and her leadership has been very special. And Bob Hines, or Farmer, is a test pilot. He is the pilot for our spacecraft. It's such a privilege to get to work with him and to lean on his flying and test pilot experience.
He will always bring a dad joke, so you can always be prepared for that.
When we're in space, we 100% put our lives in the hands of our crewmates.
All four of us together really come together and balance each other out and really just coalesce well as a crew.
Incredibly happy and thought I couldn't have had a better crew.
Well, you'll love to hear how they bond, you know, over the 2 years of training. I'm sure it was the same for your crew as well.
It's the best part of the mission, really, is that
How
bonding.
about that?
Yeah.
Well, this is the operations and checkout building high above from our helicopter here at Kennedy Space Center, and inside is some beautiful artwork. Megan, this is some artwork that came to us from around the world, part of the 2022 Children's International Artwork Contest winners, ages 4 through 6. And I love this. They've done such a great job putting these little paintings together. They were in categories, as you can see. Some were spacecraft, some were exploring the solar system. I love the one in the bottom left-hand corner. You see that, living and working in space?
Yes.
It's got a space station and it's tethered to the Earth.
Okay, yeah.
They're living in their own world there. Maybe one day we can have plants and trees like that one. Thank you to all the children who participated in our art contest. It is up on the wall, and the astronauts of Crew 4 will be walking by, and they'll see that art as they walk right by. Throughout the mission, we want to invite you for the next 3.5 hours to send us your questions for Megan. We've got the expert on hand. All you have to do is use the hashtag AskNASA handle on Twitter. So tweet it at us, and we'll get some of those questions on the air and asked to her. We got a question right now, in fact.
All right.
From Go for Space Launch. Megan, how many people can live and work on the space station at one time?
That's a great question. So when I arrived aboard the International Space Station, there was already Crew 1 was there, as well as a Soyuz crew. So in total, there were 11 of us on board the International Space Station at that time. The space station is large, but that does make it a little crowded. It makes it a little crowded for some of the hardware that you need to use, for example, the toilet or the galley to prepare your food. And so it impedes our ability to work effectively when there's that many people on board, but we all live there safely, and we are teaching one another, you know, we call it handover, to learn how to operate the space station.
Takes more coordination and more planning and organization.
Exactly.
The size of space station is roughly, like I heard it described, as a 5-bedroom house. I mean, outside it's as large as a football field.
Right.
It is massive.
Right.
Orbiting around our Earth. On the inside, 5-bedroom house.
Yes, so the living space inside is smaller than the overall size of the space station. There's a lot of external structure on the space station that, the truss that holds a lot of our equipment, power generation and distribution equipment, for example. And those are not pressurized living spaces, but they are still part of the structure of space station. So the living space inside 5-bedroom house is a closer number.
Okay, very good. And about 6,000 square feet is what I heard as well. We have another social question as we are live outside of the crew quarters waiting for the astronauts from Crew 4 to walk out. What are some of the manual features on the SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule? That comes from William 46617-13744.
So the manual features are designed in the event, because the vehicle is designed to be largely automated and ground controlled. So the manual features are designed in the event that the crew has to take over or has to take care of themselves in some way. So we think about manual flying as a capability that we have close into the space station should that become necessary. We don't expect that to ever become necessary, but it was tested out on the original demo mission.
And as the pilot, that was something that you had to know well.
We had to train, Shane and I trained that together, and in the event, for example, that we had an unsuccessful docking, we would have to make sure that the vehicle was departing the space station appropriately and safely, and if it wasn't, then there was some manual control that we would take and do some maneuvering with the spacecraft. But fortunately, we never had to do that, but that's an example of the kinds of things that we can do manually on space.
Great capability.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's autopiloted if nothing goes wrong, but you want that ability to jump in and take it. Great question. Keep them coming. We've got another one here. Jet for Me asks, what's the launch trajectory and visibility for the Crew 4 launch? This is a little bit more of a complicated question dealing with the trajectory of this particular launch. It's the same as it was for you, where we're going up and out over the Atlantic seaboard.
Right. So I didn't get to see the last one like this, but I would imagine that it's going to be a spectacular view for those in the local area because it's a night launch, and hopefully the lighting conditions will be similar and that you can see the trajectory for quite some way as it flies up along the Atlantic coast.
Especially at night with the brightness that this rocket
yeah.
gives off. And as we look live here at one of the Teslas and members of the media and family members gathering, you can see in the left-hand side, Administrator Bill Nelson, NASA's administrator, former Florida senator here in the state of Florida. And next to him is Bob Cabana, the former director of the Kennedy Space Center and current associate administrator, working out of headquarters now, helping Administrator Nelson lead the agency. See Kelvin Manning as well to his right. And here comes Crew 4 down the hallway.
All right.
On the left, Bob Hines. On the right, Jell Lindgren, giving a good wave.
Look at those smiles.
Great smiles. Jessica Watkins and Samantha Cristoforetti. And there in the elevator they go. Look at all those signatures, Megan. You can see them on the wall. Folks who have supported this program.
Yes, I remember that when we got into the elevator, and it's such a good feeling. We don't often get to interact with the thousands and thousands of people that make it possible, and it's so nice to see that just tangible evidence that they're thinking of us, and it reminds us, of course, we all are always thinking of them too, but it's a nice reminder of how large and how dedicated this team is.
Got the elevator closed, and now they're on their way down from the fourth floor to the first floor. And we are just now moments away as a result from seeing the Crew 4 astronauts exit the operations and checkout building.
Yeah, so excitement is building. I remember waiting inside, you get down off the elevator and then everything is timed very precisely. So you wait for just a couple moments and then the SpaceX team will give you the cue to start walking out, and that excitement builds pretty quickly.
And since you speak of that, Megan, we want to give you a little flashback. Take a look at the screen now. You might remember this. Demo 2, and there you are in the light blue with your son saying goodbye to your husband, Bob Behnken, on that historic flight.
That's right. That was a really special moment, and it was great to see how excited my son was to see his father. There were no tears. It was all smiles and cheering. My son, I think, was determined to say, "Launch America," first and loudest, and so that's what he was doing. He did a great job.
And then in April, Crew 2, this was your launch, and
yes.
Now the role was reversed. You were in the astronaut suit getting ready to go out and launch, and your husband was there with your son.
That's right, and I was listening out for that for that Launch America. And sure enough, I could hear it from probably 20 feet away. That was a wonderful moment.
And now we look at the doors for Crew 4, awaiting their moment with their families before they go out to Launch Pad 39A, a historic pad here, where their rocket awaits them, as well as their spacecraft, the Crew Dragon Freedom. Usually when the first SpaceX tech comes out, the astronauts are not far behind. You can see on the top there the NASA meatball, the logo, and the various mission patches around it. Those have been put there by previous crews.
That's right. You can actually just barely see the meatball. It's almost completely covered with mission stickers, but that's an important part of the traditions as well.
The gull wing doors of the Teslas now opening.
Here we are.
At T-minus 3 hours and 21 minutes until liftoff. You can see the markings on the ground. The family will not go beyond that rope, and the astronauts will generally stay behind the yellow. But then there will be a moment, as we saw from previous videos, where the family will get to go up to the car.
Yes, once the doors are closed and the windows are up, you're allowed to go up and look through the glass a little bit closer, which is nice.
There they are.
There they are.
Countdown 1.
The astronauts of Crew 4 getting ready to go to space, taking their first steps outside from left to right. Jessica Watkins, Bob Hines, Kjell Lindgren, and Samantha Cristoforetti.
Oh, what do we got here?
1, 2, 3, 4!
Nice.
And a cheer before they go off to space. I like the huddle. That was a nice little touch.
Very nice, yes.
You're going to KLR.
And here's that moment, Megan.
It's a wonderful moment, just seeing the smiles on the faces of your loved ones, knowing that they're there for you, that they're excited for you. It's really special.
Oh, seriously? Wow. That's hard to do on command.
We'll listen in for some of the comments.
Maybe we'll get to hear Kjell's big booming laugh one more time.
Have fun getting home and get to tip in and game off the streets for me. After this, after I get in the car, I think you guys are going to get some more rest. That's good. It's going to be good. You got to
Big smiles all the way around.
Absolutely.
I remember you smiling quite a bit as well, Megan. And then you told me there was a reason.
Oh, were you watching that?
That you wanted to send the message.
Oh, absolutely, yes. So again, you're not really sure how your family members will react, especially if you have young children. And so the main thing is to just show them that it's a joyful occasion. It's something to be excited and happy about. My hope was to, head off any tears that might be coming, or any upset feelings. But really, my son ended up just being a trooper. He was so happy. There was so much excitement around him that really helped buoy him up, I think, for both circumstances. And I was so grateful to see that.
And didn't he break free and say, like, "Hey, mommy, I love you"?
That sounds right. I was worried he was going to actually come through the ropes, but he did not do that. I think for Bob's launch, there's an image of him like actually trying to get through the window before the vehicles drove away, but I managed to hold on to him. He was a little bit smaller then.
One of our astronauts really soaking it in. And I believe that's Kjell.
Yeah, I don't want to miss that picture, that perfect photo.
That does look like he's posing. And the wave.
Thank you, guys.
Great shot there from our helicopter above.
I think maybe that's Farmer. Sounds
Oh,
like
is that
it.
Bob Hines?
I think so.
Yes, you're right. That shot from above was actually from one of our photographers, not the helicopter. I want to correct that. That is our helicopter shot.
Okay. Doors closing.
Our helicopter will follow the entire way as the convoy pulls out. You can see the SWAT vehicle in the background, and now the families and loved ones come in.
Yes, they get that up close view one more time with their loved ones. And that's really special. Any last little messages you want to share privately, or just hands up against the glass? It's a special moment.
And Megan, the plate for on every car of the Tesla is "Go for launch." As we can see, the custom plate. This has become a tradition.
Yeah, I like
to
it.
do on the ride out to the launch pad. It's a nice touch. As they get ready to pull out there, I'm wondering, Megan, is there a little bit of a conflict for the astronauts seeing your loved ones, knowing you are getting ready to do something that involves risk?
Right. It's something that obviously you're not thinking about it for the first time at that moment, but it's certainly present in your mind. It's something that you ideally have talked about with your family in the months and weeks, even years really, leading up to making a decision like this. And depending on the age of your family members, you do it in an age appropriate way. And so for us, we wanted to make sure our son had a chance to watch a rocket launch with both of us present. So we took him to an uncrewed cargo launch when he was maybe 3 or 4, and then kind of a build-up approach for him, and introduced it to him gradually so that he could get comfortable with the idea. And at first when I told him I was going, he said, absolutely not. You're not going. And then he said, okay, you can go, but 180 days is much too long. So it's not really a negotiation, but it's a sort of a gradual introduction of what it is. And then you try to share, obviously, why you believe it's important to do these things, even though they're risky, and that they benefit mankind, they benefit all of us.
And there goes our convoy rolling out to the launch pad. The last 10 miles, a 20-minute drive. They won't see much in the dark, but this is the way to space.
Yes. This is a nice relaxation moment. You've just gone through a happy scene, hopefully, but an emotional scene nonetheless. And this is a little bit of a time to kind of lean back in your chair a little bit. For me, it was blaring some favorite songs. And at nighttime, that was fun just because of the darkness and then the different lights that you see. It was kind of a neat visual experience. But it's just a time for a little bit of relaxation before the next phase of the journey.
And now we begin the 20-minute drive with a full security escort across NASA's Kennedy Space Center and out to Launch Pad 39A. And as we follow the convoy, we'd like to take a closer look at the Crew 4 spacecraft commander and the rest of the astronauts in this convoy, help you get to know them a little bit. And we'll start off with NASA astronaut Kjell Lindgren.
Why do we explore? I think venturing out into low Earth orbit and beyond helps us to better understand who we are and our place in the solar system and the universe. My name is Kjell Lindgren, and I'm the commander for NASA's SpaceX Crew 4 mission to the International Space Station. I grew up in an Air Force family, and so I was born in Taiwan and spent the first 2 years of my life there. We lived in Kansas and Illinois, and then we were transferred to England. It was a phenomenal upbringing. The opportunity to experience different cultures, it really opened my eyes to what it means to be an American. I've wanted to be an astronaut for as long as I can remember. I think I was inspired by the very first space shuttle launch in April of 1981.
America's first space shuttle, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
And that, I think, is really when this dream was just burned into my consciousness. And so I charted out a path. I went to the Air Force Academy, maybe to become a test pilot and then ultimately to join NASA as an astronaut. That path took some twists and curves, and I ultimately did not become a pilot, but went into medicine. And yet, still found a path through medicine where I could serve human spaceflight as a flight surgeon at NASA, supporting our crews training for International Space Station missions. But I still had that dream that perhaps I would get to do that job someday. It was absolutely amazing to get the call that I had been selected into the astronaut office. And it felt a little bit like a culmination of the hard work that I had invested in getting to that point. What an amazing, really dream come true for me. In 2013, I was assigned to my first mission and spent 141 days living and working on the International Space Station. That truly was the realization of that lifelong dream. Of all of those things in that moment and in that mission were really, really special. It was an absolute honor to get selected for the Crew 4 mission. And on top of that, to have the opportunity to command. Getting to fly with this amazing crew, with Farmer and Samantha and Waddy, they are incredible astronauts, and I feel very grateful to be on a team with them. But we're one small part of a larger team that spans the nation and the world. We truly get to leverage the best and brightest as we chase somewhat impossible goals. And so as we push forward to the moon, as we push to Mars, we are presenting ourselves with almost insurmountable challenges. By presenting ourselves with those challenges, we become better as a community, as a country, and as a species.
Great story from Kjell Lindgren on his path to becoming an astronaut, and this is what he's seeing right now. Megan, you remember this view? This is a live camera looking forward from the first Tesla in the rollout. You can see the security car ahead of it. It's dark, but that's NASA Causeway as they roll towards the pad.
That's right.
You were rocking out at this time.
I was, yes. Well, we were taking turns. We each got to choose some songs for the playlist, and I was of the Metallica and Red Hot Chili Peppers variety, and Shane's songs were a little different, but we did overlap in U2 territory, so there was some crossover.
Finding some common ground
Yes.
there with the music. Well, riding with Kjell Lindgren is Crew Dragon pilot and NASA astronaut by Bob Hines. Let's listen in to his story.
I truly believe that we all have in us an innate desire to go explore and see new things. And we have this phenomenal creation that we've been placed in to learn about how it works. We have a very unique position in our solar system, in our galaxy, to be able to look out there and to step out and continue to explore. My name is Bob Hines. I'm the pilot for NASA's SpaceX Crew 4 mission to the International Space Station. I was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina. My father was in the Army. We were stationed at Fort Bragg, and we moved around a whole bunch. The longest we ever lived anywhere was about 2 to 2.5 years. I got really comfortable showing up in new places and being able to make friends. When I was a kid, I 100% wanted to be a pilot for as long as I can remember. I was just always fascinated, not only that something that big could fly and do some amazing things, but also just the opportunity to go and see things that not many people have had a chance to do. Being able to fly and see the Earth from a new perspective has really been just a real driver for me, and getting hired as an astronaut has been the ultimate call. Contrary to popular belief, being a test pilot is not about flying by the seat of your pants and going out there and just pushing the edge of the envelope all the time. It is a much more scientific and methodical process where we plan out every mission and all the tasks on every mission, and we're constantly mitigating the risks that are associated with that mission. That seems to really dovetail very well with spaceflight, because that's a lot of what we do. My experience as a test pilot and as a pilot and an instructor, I think, have all kind of led me to this point. When I got the phone call offering me the position of the pilot on the Crew 4 mission, it was absolutely amazing. It was actually the day after my birthday when I got the phone call, and I just couldn't believe it. When I told my wife, she couldn't believe it either. I've flown over 3,500 hours in more than 50 different kinds of airplanes, and that ranges from gliders all the way to different kinds of fighter airplanes or large transport category airplanes. I can't wait to pilot this vehicle. It is an incredible honor. It is something that I never in my wildest dreams thought would be a possibility. And so to get a chance to pilot one of the newest vehicles on or off the planet is a true honor. With Chell as our commander and Samantha and Jessica as our mission specialists, it's just going to continue to be an amazing crew and an amazing experience. I am really looking forward to the camaraderie and the time that we'll get to spend together as a crew, the friendships that we'll develop, and so I think continuing that process is one of the things that I'm looking most forward to. On launch day, I am 100% most looking forward to the kick in the pants when those rocket motors light and we are heading off the launch pad. It is going to be the culmination of a lifehood dream, something that just spend your entire life looking for and not ever sure that you're actually going to achieve it.
Our newest astronaut, Bob Hines.
Being an astronaut is an incredible responsibility as well as an incredible honor. Every astronaut recognizes the honor that comes with that, but also the responsibility that comes with representing not only our respective countries, but also the world. And one of the things that we hope to show is that regardless of our nationalities or our backgrounds, when we put our mind to a single mission and we get along, we can accomplish anything.
That you see the convoy making right there is right in front of the historic vehicle assembly building, where right now we've got a mega moon rocket inside the SLS and Orion spacecraft, and you'll see that there, the cars below, and here comes the VAB. They got to be thinking a little bit about that, don't you think, Megan? That they're flying out of 39A, but one day there's going to be a big moon rocket going out of 39B, which is the other way.
Absolutely. I know they're thinking about it, even if it's just something down in the future for them. That's could be very well be their next ride.
Beautiful shot there, the VAB, as the crew goes right by us. In fact, here at the host desk, there's our camera on the ground catching the shot, and you can hear the helicopter overhead. Now the crew convoy is approaching pad 39A, and that's an area known as the Blast Danger Area, or BDA. And before any pad technicians, engineers, or astronauts enter this area around the launch pad, the SpaceX and NASA teams, they conduct an internal go, no-go poll to make sure that that area is safe for them to enter, and there they go. So let's hear now from one of our mission specialists, Jessica Watkins.
Exploring is about pushing the bounds of what we are capable of as humans. It gets at who we are intrinsically as people. And so because of that, I think it really is something that unites all of us together here on Earth. My name is Jessica Watkins, and I'm a mission specialist for NASA's SpaceX Crew 4 mission to the International Space Station. At a pretty early age, I got kind of set on the idea of becoming an astronaut. That was when I kind of first voiced the dream and interest in space and in being an astronaut in particular. My parents always stressed the importance of getting a good education and finding something that you're passionate about. And so finding geology, finding that love of mine, that passion, was really a turning point for me in my career. My graduate work focused mostly on the geology of Mars. It was part of my interest in wanting to pursue internships at NASA and gave me that exposure to those different possibilities of what careers are possible in this planetary geology field. Deciding to be an astronaut is kind of setting out a dream for yourself and then kind of stowing it in the back of your head, at least in my case. So the day that I received the phone call to invite me to come down to Johnson Space Center and become an astronaut just really was truly a dream come true.
Ladies and gentlemen, the newest astronaut, Jessica Watkins.
And I still am waiting for somebody to pinch me and wake me up. The opportunity to be the first Black woman on an International Space Station long-duration crew is exciting. It certainly is important to me and impactful to me to be able to be a part of the legacy that so many before me have paved the way to enable me to be here now. As much as I can be a small part of that legacy, I'm honored to have the opportunity. Being selected to be a part of this Crew 4 mission is truly an honor. I am so excited about the opportunity to fly with Chell, Samantha, and Bob. All three of them are very different. They all bring different skill sets, different experiences. But I think all four of us together really just coalesce well as a crew. I think launch day is going to be the day that all this starts to really finally feel real. And so I just look forward to that moment of exhale and of excitement all at the same time.
NASA astronaut Jessica Watkins there as we follow the convoy live, making their way out to the pad. And we are expecting a formal announcement that the crew is on pad right around T-minus 2 hours and 55 minutes. That's the schedule. Sometimes we run a little early or a little behind, but it looks like we're right on time at the moment. Looking ahead a little bit, at about T-minus 2 hours and 35 minutes, the astronauts will ingress or climb into the Dragon with the assistance of the suit techs, and then they'll get buckled in, making the turn there. Direct your attention to some space facts in the lower left-hand corner. We'll be putting those up throughout the broadcast. Some interesting factoids about the crew and the mission. There they are going around SpaceX's horizontal integration facility, Megan. And at this point, when you're pulling up to the rocket, probably hard to see because it's so tall, but you know it's there, and you're inside the launch pad area.
You really are, and I think actually Wadi expressed it really well in that it's an exhale and it's a building of excitement all at the same time, because you realized this is the day I've been working for, I've reached this point, and in a sense you relax because you got there, you exhale, but also, wow, this next thing that you're about to do is even more amazing and exciting. And so the excitement is building, and of course the focus and attention that they're going to bring to all of the tasks ahead of them, and they're realizing that that moment is getting closer and closer as they approach the rocket.
The inside shot driving right by the rocket that you saw there through the front windshield as they make their turn into the pad area, and a beautiful view from our helicopter orbiting the launch pad 39A. You see the three vehicles down there in the lower left-hand corner. They have arrived. There's been a lot of upgrades to this launch pad, Megan. You flew it and flew out of there under both configurations, both as a space shuttle astronaut and as an astronaut on Crew Dragon.
That's right, and we get an opportunity to tour the launch pad with a family member in the days leading up to the launch, which is really special. But other than that, we don't spend a whole lot of time on the launch pad, so getting to see it for us is always a very special thing as well. It does look very different now under the new owners, but you can still see the bones of it, of the historical structure that was there supporting all those shuttle launches.
Speaking of bones, that metal, black metal to the left, we're panning around it, but that is the old rotating service structure that used to have that gigantic structure that would, contain the cargo bay of the space shuttle, so you could get in and out of it, service it. It would rotate out. Still part of it there on the pad.
We're at T-minus 2 hours, 59 minutes. Crew have arrived at the pad. We are on schedule.
There's the announcement of the arrival, and before the crew makes their way to the elevator at the ground level of pad 39A, let's get a look at mission specialist and ESA astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti.
I got the call to become an astronaut one evening. I had this feeling that the whole universe just stopped, turned around, and smiled at me. My name is Samantha Cristoforetti, and I'm a mission specialist on the NASA SpaceX Crew 4 mission to the International Space Station. I was born in Milan, in Italy, but I grew up in a tiny little village in the northeastern Alps, still in Italy. So a very rural place, small place. In the mountains, I grew up skiing and enjoying the outdoors. My parents owned a hotel, so that's what they did all their working life. We actually lived in the hotel. It was our home. I started dreaming about becoming an astronaut pretty early on. I was still in elementary school. I think it was a number of impressions that made me dream about that. The things that I was learning in school, also books that I read. I was an avid reader of adventure books. The fact that I was growing up in a place where I had an opportunity to go out and play and explore with other kids unsupervised and get that passion for adventure. So a number of those things, and I guess they were enough to kindle that sparkle of passion for space exploration. I completed my high school in Italy, and then I enrolled at the Technical University of Munich in their engineering degree, and I chose the aerospace track. And then something unexpected happened. The opportunity opened up of actually joining the Italian Air Force as a pilot. That had not been possible for me straight out of high school because back then the Italian military did not admit women. The very broad educational and training background that I had when I became an astronaut really helped me a lot. And the astronaut job is really very much about this broad spectrum of things that you have to master rather than being a specialist that has mastered very, very well for a long time this one thing. And so I was very grateful in hindsight. In 2014, I had the opportunity of flying to space for the first time, and I spent 200 days on the International Space Station. Getting to space station, opening the hatch, hugging our friends who were waiting for us there, getting used to that sensation of floating, that first look out of the cupola, that first, full view of a sunrise. It was almost overwhelming for me. And, of course, as the time goes by, you settle into a routine. You're not overwhelmed by emotion every single day. But it becomes more like a quiet affection for the place, for the work, for the people. Getting selected for Crew 4 was amazing because it's an opportunity to go back to the International Space Station and experience again that transformation from being an earthbound creature to being this space-living creature, and being part of that very, very special life up there in this outpost of humanity up there in space.
Samantha Cristoforetti, the third consecutive ESA astronaut to ride aboard the Crew Dragon. It all began with Crew 2 and Thomas Pesquet. You remember that well. There's a look at the launch pad, pad 39A. At the very top, Crew Dragon Freedom, a brand new spacecraft from SpaceX, riding on top of the Falcon 9 rocket below. This Falcon 9 rocket, Megan, interesting note. It is when it flies today, it'll be the fourth time that this booster has flown. So a reuse to the fourth time. That's a first time for a crewed capsule to go on top of a rocket and get a fourth flight. Of course, they have passed for many times ago. In fact, just last week they launched a booster for the 12th time.
Right.
But that's really reuse in action with astronauts on board.
Right. It's an amazing capability that actually started with us. I think, were the first flight-proven booster launched a year ago. And so, true to fashion, they are making leaps and strides in that reusability territory. Of course, very careful to make sure that all the parts and pieces pass all of the necessary safety checks and are rated to refly again. And their fleet leaders, of course, being used on uncrewed vehicles so that they can push those boundaries and get more and more data, but with an uncrewed vehicle.
Absolutely. And that is exactly what makes this the cycle of reusability work so well, as administration at NASA have talked about studying very closely this booster before it flew. Megan, how about we take some more questions from social media?
Sounds great.
You've been taking them throughout the night, and we will continue to do so here at T-minus 2 hours and 53 minutes and counting. And Andrew Pino wants to know, Megan MacArthur, what is your advice to students who are interested in becoming astronauts in the future? And I'm sure you get asked this one a lot.
I do get asked this question a lot. I remember asking the question when I was a student, wondering, well, how do I get this job, right? So it's an important question. It does change a little bit over the years, but the fundamentals are going to be the same probably for a long time. So when you're looking to work as a professional astronaut, work for your government, there's going to be some kind of a selection process involved, and that's going to involve looking looking at your schooling, what kinds of schooling did you partake in, and for the most part it's going to be engineers, scientists, people with some kind of operational background. So what I mean by that is you are able to work in a technical field where you are part of the environment. So that's sometimes pilots, it can be folks working on submarines. Oh, this is one of my favorite moments, when the crew gets to first look up at their rocket ready to go.
That's Kjell Lindgren and Bob Hines giving a look, and
that's right.
Bob looks a little giddy.
Yeah, he's pretty excited. Look at that rocket. Yep, I like that sort of characteristic, the lean back, the look up together. It's a good look.
And the wave as they get ready to get into the elevators to ride up to the top where the crew access arm is, which will take them to the spacecraft. It is the original elevators. They've been, of course, renovated, but those are the same elevators you got in, Megan, as both a shuttle astronaut and a Dragon crew member.
Another piece of history. Hopefully at this time of night they won't be taking up too many mosquitoes with them.
Want to let you finish your thought. That's right. Want to let you finish your thought about the training of getting ready to try and put yourself in a position to become an astronaut.
Absolutely. So so working in a technical field and really working with a team. Astronauts do not work as solo agents for the most part. It's really about your team skills, which can both be leadership skills and followership skills, and the ability to do both things. So my advice, wherever you're at in school, is seek out those team projects, whether they're part of your formal education or there's something that you want to do on the side that you and your friends develop together. Those team experiences where you're working together to build something and operate something are really valuable.
Absolutely. Great advice. As we see the first two astronauts make their way up out of the elevators and towards the crew access arm. Some fist pumps with their crew. And then they'll make their way over to a telephone for a last call. Well, a last call before they leave Earth.
That's right, yeah.
To their family members.
So this is about the moment when your family members and loved ones realize they really hope they've left their phone on, they haven't put it on mute, because you do hopefully get a phone call from the launch pad. There's that bend back look again. There should be a name for that move.
There should be.
We'll see if we can come up with one. But
we should name it.
Yeah.
Samantha and Jessica there. How about just lean back look?
You got a feather rocket in there somehow.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm going to work on that, Megan. I'll get with you later.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah.
So on the right-hand side, we have Samantha and Jessica getting ready to get into the elevator. On the left-hand side, Bob and Kjell making that phone call. There's a phone there. It has very large buttons for dialing the numbers, because you've got those big gloves on.
Got those big gloves on, that's right. And of course you can't put the phone up against your ear with that helmet on, so you're essentially kind of shouting into the receiver and doing your best to hear what is maybe shouted back. But it's just that one last chance to send the I love yous back and forth over the phone wires before you leave the planet.
So do you have to memorize the number since it's
actually typically there's someone there that dials for you?
Oh, very good.
Yeah,
That's
but you're
helpful.
right. Nowadays you often don't memorize phone numbers, right? We all get them out of our mobile phones.
That's right.
They've thought of everything, though. Someone's got it written down.
And we should expect nothing less. You can see the chevrons on the ground and the direction that they point. Those have a purpose as well.
That's right. The chevrons are directing in the event of a contingency where there are people on the launch pad. The chevrons are one signal, a visual signal that's easy to see if there's darkness or smoke, to direct you away from the rocket and toward the baskets that you would ride in to get far away from the launch pad.
And now our mission specialists have caught up. So it looks like Bob Hines is having a nice little conversation there. This is a beautiful shot from our helicopter.
Yes.
Looking at the top of the launch tower, and the crew access arm to the right goes out to the rocket. You looked at that view. It's nighttime, and we are in a national wildlife refuge, so I imagine there's not a whole lot to see, but still.
It is pretty special, and you're sort of realizing this is as close as I'm going to get to nature for a while. Yeah. And so it's a special feeling. You get a little bit of breeze on your face. And that's a special feeling as well, things that you're going to miss when you're closed up inside the International Space Station.
Samantha and Jessica taking advantage of exactly what you just said, the chance to look out at planet Earth one last time before getting inside Crew Dragon. And I heard the astronauts from Crew 3 talking the other day about what they missed, and they were such earthly things, you know. Thomas Marshburn talked about wanting to just have the wind blow in his face.
Yes.
They talked about a hot bath.
I went running in the rain, and it felt wonderful. I just had a smile on my face the whole time with, you know, rain running down my face and down my neck and into my clothes, but it felt like, yep, I'm here on Earth. This is good.
Space is awesome to visit, but it's nice to come back home, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
If you're just joining us, you are watching live coverage of NASA's SpaceX mission known as Crew 4. Good evening and welcome to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. I'm Daryl Nail, along with a recent pilot aboard a SpaceX Crew Dragon, the voice of NASA astronaut Megan MacArthur. She is here and giving us great insight into the mission today.
Thanks, Daryl. I just really enjoy watching them go through this and remembering what it was like for us, but as well knowing that they're going to have their own individual take on it, their individual experience, and just seeing already the camaraderie, the relationships between the crew members, and knowing that they're going to have such a fun and successful time up there.
Walking down the crew access arm comes Bob Hines and Kjell Lindgren. We see them inside, and the shot to the left from the outside.
Love that shot.
The closeout team not far behind. They have some work to do to get them inside. And now our mission specialists have the opportunity to make that phone call. We are T-minus 2 hours and 45 minutes and counting until the liftoff of Crew 4 from the Kennedy Space Center. This is now a look inside the White Room. Kjell has arrived.
This core on countdown 1. We are at T-minus 2 hours 45 minutes. The crew have arrived at the White Room and are preparing for ingress. We are on schedule.
Right on schedule. You see he's got the Sharpie in his hand, and Megan, he's signing that white wall inside the White Room.
He is. He's signing his name there in preparation for launch. All of the crews that have launched from there previously will have already signed their name, and so each one of the crew members will get to do that. And as you know, the White Room is not really a room, it's just kind of the end of that walkway, so it is a relatively small space that's being used to do final suit preparations. It does have a small amount of emergency equipment in there, so it is a tight little space, but it's important to take that time and acknowledge those traditions that are being built and renewed here.
Your name is on that wall.
On that wall.
Hopefully they didn't write over it.
Ooh, yeah. I might have to go back and check.
We'll take a look after the launch, just make sure everything's...
That's right, make sure it's all good.
In fact, that Sharpie is an item on a checklist.
Of course
SpaceX
it is,
makes
yes.
sure that it's there. And here come our next two astronauts.
We're finishing up one last phone call, it looks like, and then they'll probably walk together.
Were you able to hear the call that you made? Were you able to hear?
It's difficult because, again, you can't get the receiver up inside your helmet against your ear, and so once your family realizes that, then they're, essentially shouting. It's not time for a nuanced conversation.
Well, it looks like Jessica and Samantha are wrapped up.
Getting some hugs
or
there.
no, we might. I'm kind of getting juked out here. No, there they go. And here come Jessica and Samantha. They'll walk down the crew access arm with broad smiles. Well, Samantha is saying something, not sure what she's saying, but she is smiling.
I think they could about smile their way into space.
Just on the energy alone.
That's right.
The white room also allows for completion of cargo load at T-minus 24 hours. So it has use to both get the astronauts inside the crew capsule and to get that late stowage. This is part of the countdown that we call ingress, a milestone that we have reached at inside the 2-hour and 42-minute mark. Simply means that the astronauts are getting inside Crew Dragon. The closeout team surrounds them and is preparing them to go inside. They have covers on their boots that make sure everything is kept clean upon entering the capsule. Samantha flashing us the Crew 4. That's a great shot looking back towards the crew access arm as the closeout team does their work right there between Jessica and Samantha. And the signatures with some fresh ink.
That's right.
Those helmets are 3D printed and customized. All right, let's check back in with our team at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. Send it over to Jesse and Dan.
Thanks, Daryl. It's really exciting to see the crew starting to ingress the Dragon vehicle and get ready for their journey to the International Space Station. Just a quick clarification, their journey will be about 16 hours long once they lift off this morning.
Yeah, that's right about in the middle of what we've seen for most of these missions. They can be as short as 8 if we end up getting basically a phasing angle that works really, really well. They can be as long as 2 days. So about 16 hours will be nice. But right now they're ingressing the capsule, as Daryl said. We've got Jessica Watkins still out here in the White Room. White Room is kind of their last stop on planet Earth. It's, as we said, it's the end of the access arm. There's a seal that extends from the White Room around the capsule just to help keep the Dragon interior as clean of an environment as possible, keep out all the moisture, the humidity from that Florida weather. And so each of the crew members, they're doing the signing. They're also getting what's known as a FOD check, a foreign object debris check, just making sure that they're not bringing any dust, debris, particles, things like that in that could interfere with the umbilicals or any of the different systems, because anything that goes in that capsule is going to space for the next 6 months.
Really exciting to see Jessica Watkins and Samantha Cristoforetti signing their names. And they do have this in the procedure to have the Sharpie ready for them so that they can do this signing before they ingress the Dragon vehicle. It looks like now they both have signed their signatures, and next steps is to start ingressing the Dragon capsule.
We've got Chell and Bob in already, and when we get a look in through the hatch, the seats are numbered 1 through 4. So when you're looking in from the hatch, it goes from right to left. So that seat all the way on the right will be seat 1, and that's where Samantha Cristoforetti is bound. Just to the left of that is seat number 2. That's the commander's seat, and Chell Lindgren already seated there. Next to that, the pilot's seat, seat number 3, where Bob Hines is going to be riding uphill, and then Jessica Watkins will be in seat 4 all the way on the left. And these seats have a connection point to the suits. They've got an umbilical, basically a hose almost, that plugs into the leg of the suits, and that provides a couple of really critical functions for the suit. It gives them a hardline connection to communications through the Dragon spacecraft. It also provides the capability to flow just conditioned cabin air to help them stay cool. Performing a similar function to that blue box we saw them carrying earlier. But then one of the really critical ones that all of the different umbilical points can provide is pressurized nitrox, and that's to if these suits need to be pressurized for any reason, we can flow that in. If they're in a depressurized cabin, if there's issue with the atmosphere or anything like that, that suit can provide a pressurized, safe environment for the crew members.
And you can see on your right-hand screen that all 4 of the crew members are now sitting in their seats. You can see the suit techs there helping them get strapped in or harnessed into each of their seats, and their umbilicals attached to their suits. And every part of this process is very precise. You did see as the crew ingress through the hatchway, the suit techs even put their hand over their helmet. That's a part of the procedure, again, to make sure that they don't damage anything as they enter the vehicle. Same with as they're putting together their harnessing. Again, every step of this process is very precise, and we might be able to see it in a minute here, but they do have some tablets and some pads with them where the crew can follow along with every procedure, every step of the way.
And we were just looking at Kjell Lindgren. He's seen this entire process from up close before. We saw Zena Cardman. She's the ASP, the astronaut support personnel for this one. Kjell did it back on Crew 1 and got some internet notoriety as he was the SpaceX ninja that had 2 umbrellas as it was a rainy day. So getting a little fame from that one. But so he did that for the Crew 1, so this is not his first trip down this walkway, but this time he's going to be strapping in and heading uphill. So they're getting strapped in. They've got a 5-point harness that's going to be secured throughout the entire ascent portion. They're going to be in their suits until they're on orbit. They're going to wear these suits for all of the different, what we call dynamic phases of flight. So that's where the vehicle's actively making maneuvers. And so that's obviously going to be launch and ascent. They'll put their suits back on when we get into the docking with this, with the International Space Station. Same in reverse, they'll wear them for undocking. And then they'll wear them at the very end of the mission when we get to the deorbit, re-entry, and splashdown.
Yeah, once the suit techs finish getting the crew all settled in, they will do some comm checks, then rotate to their seats into launch position. Right now the seats are rotated down so that they are much more accessible, but once they rotate upwards, they'll be able to access those display panels that you can kind of see right above the pilot and commander seat there. And these Dragon seats are actually custom made for each crew member. They kind of go hand in hand with their custom suits. And the suits are basically an extension of the Dragon vehicle. So pretty cool. They get their own custom-made seats, custom-made suit, which is almost like their own personal AC system.
Yeah, we'll see them get strapped in, and then there's, as Jesse said, there's a couple of events that we're gonna listen to and we're gonna see take place. Those communication checks will come up. We'll hear the core. That's essentially the voice of Mission Control Hawthorne. Which for today is Arthur Barrio. So we'll hear his voice when we get ready for the communications checks. They'll call up to the crew. They'll get a quick comm check from each of the crew members. So they'll call down. You'll hear them call down as commander, pilot, or PLT, MS1, MS2 for the 2 mission specialists. And they're going to be talking to the core throughout the entire mission. And they're also going to do a communication check with a couple of other of the key team members. One, the SpaceX mission director, who here in Hawthorne has the overall authority for the mission, and also the SpaceX launch director, or LD, who's overseeing all of the pre-launch and launch preparations down there at Kennedy. And then we'll do those communications checks over a couple of different paths, both through ground sites and also through what's known as TDRS, the tracking and data relay satellites. That's what same satellites we use for command telemetry data with the space station, and same satellites that are used to get all of that to and from Dragon. So they'll do all of those checks. They're also going to do another round of suit leak checks. So we saw them do that in the suit up room a little while ago. Now that they're actually on board Dragon, able to integrate into the systems, use the umbilicals, they'll do another leak check, and then the crew will be one step closer to launch.
And really exciting to see, if you're just now joining us, the Crew 4 astronauts are now in their seats. They've ingressed Dragon, and we do still have the suit techs there still assisting with getting them settled in and prepared for their mission today. The suit techs help with getting their harnessing strapped for each of the crew members, getting their umbilicals attached. And again, as Dan mentioned, they will be doing some comm checks here shortly once they are all settled in into their seats.
And once we get to those checks, you'll see them using their armrests. That's where they have a couple of different buttons. One is to actually enable that communication. They can change their Vox settings, their audio communication settings, just for volume levels, things like that inside the helmet. They're in a rotated position right now just for ingress, but after we get through a couple of more steps, we'll get to seat rotation. So we'll see their feet swing up a little bit. They rotate the seats by a little less than 30 degrees to put them in the launch position. And this is to orient them just for the best position for managing the G loads on the way uphill. It also gives them direct access to those displays.
Yeah, Dan, and there's some pretty cool features about these suits as well. The helmets, you mentioned the audio attachment on their armrest. The helmets themselves have the audio basically designed into them. And the helmets are 3D printed, which is pretty cool. The suits are flame resistant, and the gloves, as Dan mentioned, they will be using that display, those display screens above the pilot and commander seat. Those gloves are actually designed to be able to use on that touchscreen.
And that touchscreen's where Kjell Lindgren and Bob Hines have basically all of their direct insight into Dragon's systems. They can dig down into all of the different subsystems. Any alerts or alarms will show up there. And that's also the means of manual piloting for Dragon. There's no control sticks, there's no flight sticks, anything like that. It's all done via touchscreen. In fact, SpaceX had a really cool interactive where you could do it on the web when we did Demo 2 about 2 years ago. And it's very similar. They use that touchscreen to take control and command Dragon if required. Again, the flight designed to be autonomous the whole way, but those touchscreens can be used should the crew need to step in. Both Kjell Lindgren and Bob Hines, both trained, both capable to jump in and pilot Dragon. And there's also a row of buttons. You can just see them at the top of your screen that sit below those touch screens. Those are hardline buttons to a couple of just really critical items. If you need to basically hit them immediately, things like initiating a deorbit, suppressing fire. There's several buttons for some of the different pyrotechnics on the vehicle, deploying parachutes. And that display, that's just a cluster that's just beneath those touch screens. Looking like we're getting close to getting the suit techs out of there.
Yeah, looks like we had some fist bumps, and the suit techs are now egressing or exiting the Dragon capsule.
All right, well, with the suit tech starting to get out of there, we should be coming up now on those communications checks and suit leak checks. So we should be getting some call outs from the core, the crew operations and resource engineer, coming up in just a couple of minutes. So again, we've got a couple of those milestones coming up. We're gonna do those communications checks, they're gonna do leak checks. And then after we get through all of those, we'll be a little bit closer to closing out some of the final pad ops. That closeout team will be responsible for closing that side hatch on the Dragon spacecraft, which will get its own leak check. And once that side hatch is closed, and once we pass the leak check, it doesn't open again until Dragon is splashed down at the very end of the mission.
And we've got some really cool views of the pad on your left-hand screen with the crew, Crew 4 crew inside of the Dragon capsule there. So far, we've had a pretty on-time schedule today. The crew, we did watch live as the crew they were all in the suit-up room doing their suit leak checks. We followed them as they got into their Teslas and rode to the launch pad as they climbed the fixed service structure. And now the crew is all settled into their seats. The suit techs are out of the Dragon vehicle and now are prepping for the next steps, as Dan mentioned, getting ready for the hatch closure, as well as the comms checks that we should hear coming up.
SpaceX, Freedom, we are ready for comm checks.
SpaceX copies Freedom. Stand by for umbilical comm checks.
Standing by.
And great timing. Sounds like comm checks are starting now.
We're just standing by for those communications checks to pick up. That's the core, the crew operations and resource engineer, Arthur Barrio. On the left side of your screen, he's sitting just behind us in MCCX here on Hawthorne. Again, we're going to hear him give a call up to the crew. He'll get comm checks from the commander and the pilot first.
CDR, PLT, MS1, MS2, comm check.